Hey guys, welcome to another episode on the Reddit Kollywood podcast, and we are on our 15th episode today. It's a big landmark for us, I feel. And in this episode, leading to the release of Good Bad Ugly, we are going to be talking about the long and illustrious career of none other than our ultimate star. அது சொல்லக்கூடாது தல சொல்லக்கூடாது. Yeah, Ajith Kumar. So we have on our panel today. We have Jax, we have Pirate King, we have Hari, and we have Siege, whom you have met in the other episodes. So let's dive straight into the podcast, guys. So let me ask a quick question, and you guys can just introduce yourself very quickly. So tell me one movie of Ajit that you know before Wali. So let's start with Jax.
Before Wali, Asa is before Wali, right?
Yes. So Asa is one.
Yeah.
Pirate.
I remember watching on TV this very old movie where Ajith is like a racing driver called Pavitra.
That is two. Hari.
Remember watching this long time ago. Unnai Thedi, I think that was before Wali.
That was the movie just before Wali. So that is number three. Siege.
I mean, the earliest Ajit thing I've seen is that Sirupu ad that he acted in when he was really young. But jokes apart, if I were to choose a film, it's Asai. I'll tell you why I remember Asai, because I remember watching it on Sun TV as a young child. Inappropriate film, to be very honest, to be watching. And the Prakash Raj, he kills his wife, right, by wrapping her in a plastic sheet where she's struggling to breathe and stuff. That thing was scary as hell. That is the only reason I remember that film.
So in this podcast, what we're going to be doing is all of us are going to be choosing one of our favorite movies of Ajit and just talk about it. So let's start with Pirate King. Let's start with your movie of the day. What is your favorite Ajit movie of all time?
Yeah, the movie I want to talk about is Dina. So I feel like Dina is sort of the very clear, it's sort of the very clear, like distinctive divide between the Ajit films that have been done before. Movie that sort of launches him as like a mass hero. This is also the first debut movie for A.R. Murugadas. So there are a lot of things that go on this movie. And this also is the first time that Ajit is referred to as Thala in this movie. So yeah, there's a lot in this movie to talk about.
On that note, like yesterday, I was just going through some of the scenes for Ajit, and so Deenala வந்து அந்த like just before Laila, he'll like for the first time அவளுக்கு சண்டை பிடிக்கும் தெரிஞ்சதுக்கு அப்புறம் the rowdies will come and he'll remove his arwal, he'll remove his belt and all that, right? So that is the iconic scene from Deena. And அதுக்கப்புறம் some rowdies will come and call him தல நீ இங்கதான் இருக்கிய தல எனக்கு தெரியாம போயிடுச்சு. Was that the first time that word தல was used, do you think?
No, there's a scene before that where before the actual song with Nagma and Ajit dance, Vatti Kuchi Pati Kadara. So there's a scene in the bar where Mahanadi Shankar actually refers to him as Thala twice in that scene. So I think that's the first time that they sort of introduced
Okay.
that.
That's a very nice trivia to know.
Yep. So that sort of settles him into this, and I think I have a lot of like reservations about the movie, but I think what the movie does really well. I mean, this is A.R. Murugadas's like first film, so obviously he had like a really great hook, and the hook was basically, is he going to sort of honor his sister's like dying wish, or is he going to sort of go against his brother's wishes? So there's this very interesting conflict that's set up in the movie, and my only wish is the movie focused a lot on that. Of course, on the time இருக்கிற movies they had to adhere to like all of the songs, the
Yeah.
tracks, all the different things that they had to do, and the movie is also like 2 hours 47 minutes long, so it's really long for the story that it's trying to say. But yeah, overall, I think it the songs are really really great. But yeah, that's just maybe yeah, we'll segue into this discussion a little bit. So what do you guys think about that?
See, I think interestingly, right, Ajit in that period, that early 2000s, he was the quintessential angry young man archetype. I mean, basically, kind of found this niche that, say, Amitabh Bachchan had in the 70s in Hindi cinema, the angry young man. But we got our own sort of version of that with Ajit in that early 2000 space. And if you think about it, அதுக்கப்புறம் வந்த படம் G and so on, right? They're not that good, and even Red for that matter, they're not that as good as Dina, and that's where Murugadas's sort of one-liner and direction stands out. But they kind of played on that template, and he went through this phase where he was doing these sort of angry young man type roles. So in that sense, Dina is probably the best one out of that lot, in some sense. And நீங்க சொன்ன மாதிரி பாரு, it's like the bridge between Ajit, sort of this romantic hero turning into a mass hero. Although I think he was still a few years out before he became this larger than life figure. The Dina was a very strong stepping stone. That நீங்க சொல்லுங்க.
Honestly, to be honest, it's been a while since I saw Dina, other than the super scenes that I was watching yesterday. So Dina is that kind of movie for me where there were a lot of kuti kuti segments which are just enjoyable. Like we grew up that way, right? Sun TV always just keeps playing super scenes from random movies, and Dina used to keep coming back because it had a lot of scenes like that going for it, along with an amazing music album. But as far as the story and all that goes, எனக்கு பெருசா I don't really remember much. But for me, the Ajith during Amarkalam and Dina was like like you said, Dina is kind of a transition, right? I feel Amarkalam was where it actually started, and then it segued right into Dina.
I think I'm the same. Like, அவ்வளோ ஞாபகம் இல்லை படம், but I actually found this movie through A.R. Murugadas. I wasn't that much of a Ajit Toda fan back then, and I just kind of knew he existed in the corner somewhere, but I wasn't really paying attention. ஏஆர் முருகதாஸோட ஃபில்மோகிராஃபி எக்ஸ்ப்ளோர் பண்ணும்போது தான் ஐ டிஸ்கவர்ட் தீனா, அண்ட் ஐ திங்க் ஐ ஜஸ்ட் ஃபெல் இன் லவ் வித் இட் பிகாஸ் இட்ஸ் மோர் தென் இட் ஜஸ்ட் பீங் an action packed entertainer. It's like this film that I think perfectly gave us like a good blend of a mix of like this mass appeal and just a great emotional depth. And I think for me the climax is one of the most satisfying climaxes I've seen in Tamil cinema. It's unlike many mass movies, typical mass movies where the hero just dominates the villain, this that, and ends in a fight. I think Dina has this more emotional and more of this like sort of an impactful resolution. That final moment between him and his brother, I think just add a complete weight to the action, making it just feel so meaningful. So I think I would say the standout for me in Dina would be that climax. Everything leading up to that climax is set up. Everything was perfect for me.
Yeah, of course. Like it won't be, won't hold up till this current age. But on a time it was the perfect commercial film you could actually get. Of course, they didn't delve deeply into the conflicts, as Pirate said. But the packing was actually really good.
So yeah, so that was Dina for you guys. So let's head to the next movie. Hari, let's start with you this time. What is your movie for the evening?
I chose Yenna Erindal just because I think it's just I mean after Dina, I think I started to follow Ajith more because of his just unique selection of scripts and stuff. And and I'm a huge Gautam Menon fan on the side as well. I just love his entire filmography and the choices he takes with actors and stuff casting in his films. And I think Yenna Erindal has to be my favorite Ajith film, just completely out of his entire filmography, just because we know Gautam Menon and his like typical like cop thrillers, and I feel like this one kind of sets itself aside because it's not really that kind of typical kaka style like viruvirun pora mari or story. I think is explores like the emotional side of a cop's life, and I thought that was really interesting to see. Well, Gautam Menon, he puts Ajit through absolute hell. He loses his father at a young age. He lost his lover. And he now has to take care of a kid that isn't even his. I think his arc from this kind of like a reckless for a young man to like this matured and composed officer, I think that's what makes the film real. real. And of course, the non-linear storytelling just adds depth. I think every phase of Satyadevo's life, it just feels significant rather than just like a background filler type thing. And I think the film for me just elevated from the moment it leads up to that police sort of briefing room and Gautam and he goes, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is Satyadev, and the camera pans. Oh, that scene is iconic for me. Like that was the top of the movie. For me. And then obviously Victor or a character, I think in Tamil cinema liye, one of my favorite and most iconic antagonists came from Arun Vijay. I didn't even think he would be able to do this great of a job, but எங்கேயோ கொண்டு போயிட்டான் அந்த படத்தை. And
I think Gautam Vasudev Menon, we have to like Kurte Avano, like he is so good at making
yeah.
characters like stand very strong on the screen. Like be it a good guy or a bad guy, like his characters kind of stand in like take it Jiva from Kakakaka or like from Vetayadu Vilayadu, you know. Like எந்த படம் எடுத்தாலும் the even the hero guys are so strong, but the villain guys are equally strong, and like they have such a good screen presence and space to perform in Gautam Vasudev Menon movies.
It's an interesting choice in Yenna Erindal, right? When they introduce Arun Vijay, that his introduction scene, you don't even see his face. I mean, he has that handkerchief on his face, right? So you see why he is such a strong villain without even knowing without knowing how he looks. It's literally at the end of that scene that's the first time you actually see his face. I thought it was a very interesting way to kind of establish how big a threat he is without leaning in on his own sort of expressions and so on, just the voice and the body language and stuff.
I think apart from the action as well, I just love the emotional side of this movie more because that whole stuff with him taking care of Trisha's daughter and that whole Unakena Venam Sollu, that whole montage was just amazing because it doesn't really feel like it's just like a travel or a destination or a advertisement. It feels like you're actually going on this tour with them, and that entire song I feel like sums up the emotional core of this entire movie. And he has
I
like
brought this up during the VTV podcast, but I'm just bringing it again. Like I think Gautam Vasudev Menon is the best music video producer that we have,
completely.
especially because you're talking about Unakena Venum Sollu. Like அதோட cinematography, அதோட
ஆமா.
locations வச்சு எல்லாம் like the storytelling in that song. It is just for 6 minutes you can just sit down and keep watching it.
Yeah, Harris Jairaj, I think there's a reason why Gautam Menon chooses to stick with him, and it's all for the right reasons. Like that guy delivers every single time.
And other than the
I
songs,
mean,
right, the score as well is so good in this film. The one score, right,
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys remember this. Towards the end, when Victor is about to go and attack Satyadev, right? So Satyadev is getting ready, and Victor goes for a swim. There's this sort of guitar riff, which is it's just so perfect. It's just so good.
Yeah.
I love that
ஆமா.
piece. It's so small, but it's one that I've heard on loop multiple times.
ஆமா.
Harris was really good. I think he elevated even the most banal scenes in this film, and I fall in the category where with Yanner in the Always, I think the movie is good in theory, and most of it also was worth a watch. I just feel that the execution could have used a bit more tightening. More so, I somehow right. I just feel that a lot of this pointless suspense that GVM brings in, right? It just adds to the length and has no real payoff
yeah.
in any shape or form. நீங்க வந்து see, everybody knows Victor was the one who killed Trisha. I mean, it's the most obvious twist in the world, right? There's no twist. I mean, that's the most obvious thing. அது வந்து you kind of drag it out and then கடைசியில you make that as the catalyst for him to kill him, and it became a bit like stating the obvious. I know he wanted this to be more of an autobiographical film, but I think some of those bits, like, he could have probably tightened. Similarly, right, the way he talks about code and I mean, இப்படி போனா நான் நல்லவன், இப்படி போனா நான் கெட்டவன், you know for a fact, because even before that, Anushka tells him that you were a cop, right? It's obvious that he's not a bad guy to begin with. So, and the element of suspense, when they like, you kind of lose out a bit, but then the individual moments kind of work because combination of staging, music, and acting Like when he reveals to Victor in that godown or warehouse that he is ACP Satyadev, right? As a mass moment, it actually works. But then the lead up to it is probably a bit didn't really work well.
I mean, now that you're talking about that scene, I just the good thing about me is I kind of forget all the bad stuff about movies which I've seen a while ago. So I know I didn't like the organ theft part and all that. Like I thought the entire second half was little screwed up because of that. But for me, Ennayarthal is more about how strong a character Satyadev was. Like that, so that one scene in the godown where he's bringing the gun into the frame. So அந்த ஒரு scene, அப்புறம் the other scene where Ashish Vidyarthi is coming to Ajith's house and Ajith like throws him out. Right, these two scenes are what is in my head when I think of Ennayarthal now, and that just makes me kind of happy that Gautam Vasudev Menon was able to create such a character for a good actor like Ajith, you know.
Dad, நீங்க வந்து அந்த அஷிஷ் வித்யார்த்தி சீன் சொன்னீங்கல்ல, I was just thinking today morning when I saw that post in our chat. I was thinking maybe, if they rewritten the script in such a way that, you had a bit more time establishing the relationship or friendship between Victor and Satyadev, which happens very quickly. It's suitable for the story that they're going for currently. But என்னோட alternate version வந்து maybe if they spend a bit more time establishing that friendship, they are at odds, and then when Trisha dies, this guy Satyadev is very sure that it's Victor who's out there to take his revenge. But then kadasila when it's revealed that Victor was not the one who killed it, it was actually Ashish Vidyarthi. That might have actually been a better twist ending, if you will, if you wanted to go for that. And I think that sort of dragged out suspense might have actually had some payoff and some connection in at least the whole friendship arc between Satyadev and Victor. I know it's a pointless exercise and as such, but I just thought I would share it with you guys.
I think, yeah, like speaking of like rewriting the movie a little bit, I feel like the thing that always puzzles me about this movie particularly is that I think this is one of probably like to my recollection the earlier times when like a very prominent director who usually shares like the story and screenplay credits to themselves actually like extends it by working with other people. So like Tyagarajan Kumararaja and Sridhar Raghavan both wrote additional stuff for the movie, and I think when Gautam explained it, so I remember like he mentioned that they focused on the crime elements of the movie, and that's what they had focused on because Gautam felt that they had done better research on those elements in their prior movies in the past. So the part for me that I feel whenever I watch this movie is I definitely get Hari's point that the movie is all about the emotional core of Satyadev and all of the stuff that happened there. I feel like this movie could have also worked in a way where in the past Satyadev is the one who tricks. Basically, he's like in sort of like disguise, and he enters the operation early on, and then he betrays Victor's character. I feel like maybe they could have given like Victor more screen time by having him sort of act reformed maybe, and that could have probably helped establish the twist better that he was the one who actually like killed Trisha. Maybe there's an element that he acts like he's his friend, he's reformed, but then turns out that he's still doing this stuff on the side. I don't know. That part to me kind of feels the like unfinished part of the movie for me.
The Ennayarthal has all the elements that previous GVM films have. Like each and everything, you'll see, you'll be connecting it with a previous film of GVM himself. It's almost like they gave him a tribute of sorts.
I think that's just a play on something related to what GVM has said, right? Because he believes that all the characters in his cop universe or cop stories are essentially the same person, just at different points in their life. So it kind of makes sense that from a not staging, I would say, but from a filming perspective, a lot of elements will appear very similar. But I think that kind of ties back to the point you're trying to make, Jax, that it has a very similar common thread in Hollis cop films.
I know why I point out this because he directed two cop films, Shaka and Vettiyarlan. But he had the nuance to absolutely differentiate between these two because Kaka Kaka is absolutely an action-oriented film, and Better Lady was totally, investigation or more clinging to that. This film, it might be an amalgamation between those two, I guess. The I don't know. It just felt like GVM just collaborated all his elements and put it into it.
Do we even count AYM as a cop movie?
Yeah,
Quadroon.
I was literally about to say that we don't talk about AY. That was supposed to be my statement.
Yeah, but let's move on. Let's move on to our third movie for the evening. So Siege, let's go with your movie. Looks very interesting.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with one of those pre-mass masala Ajit films before Ajit became mass masala hero, and that's Mugavari. Okay, so again, start with my usual sort of lament that I'm an old geezer. So a lot of films from the '90s, I've actually watched them in the cinemas, and Mugavari is one of those films that I actually watched in the cinema. And it is, I think, one of those films that kind of followed on from the films that he had done prior to that. So Asai, Kadal Kote, and so on. And so it was still in that phase. One interesting thing you'll observe in all these films, including Mugavari, is that in all these films, Ajit Vande, he really is suffering through something or the other, like in some shape or form. He's not just the underdog, like he's literally பார்த்தா ரொம்ப பாவமாக வரும் முகவரியில வந்து. And what I think really worked well for me, and one of the reasons why I like to call out this film as well, is the fact that the struggles that Ajit has in this film are very, very real. And I think it was very, very relatable to a lot of people, especially back in the 90s and the time Lavandappo. I mean, let's not forget, guys, like late 90s India, when it was still on the cusp of growth. I mean, the IT revolution had just started, liberalization was literally 7 years ago. So we still, the average middle class person had very, very similar struggles. And the basic struggle was you had to work to feed your family. அதுக்காக வந்து you had to bury all your dreams. And in that sense, Mogovari was a very cathartic film in that sense. You kind of see that passion in him. You kind of see him struggle and trying to make that passion work. But Kadasila Vande, when he kind of gives it all up for the family, right? I'm not making this up. I literally had tears in my eyes when I watched it back then. Because even though I was a kid, that struggle and the way Ajit showed that struggle, right, was very, very powerful.
From how you just described this movie, I'm
Yeah.
like, I need to go and watch this weekend for sure. I mean, it's been a while since I saw this movie, but you explaining it in this way, where it's a constant tussle between ambition and like what is the right thing to do and what is the thing I want to do, kind of, it's a very similar place where most of us are stuck all the time.
I think
So
so.
just for
And
that reason, I feel I want to go and watch this movie.
by the way, before I talk any further, right, I'm referring to the original ending of Mugavari. We'll talk about the two endings in a second. So, in Mugavari Lavande, you really, really want this guy to succeed. You really want him to somehow end up realizing his passion in some shape or form. And when you see that he doesn't get it, you feel sad for him. But then you understand why he made those decisions. And let's put it this way, guys. I think number one, the number passion and number responsibilities, most of us will probably choose the latter. And I think we'll do it happily as well. Yes, and the sadness we have to give up on our passions, but number family number comes to your partner, your parents, your children, you will always do what is best for them before you put yourself right. And that, I think, is the quintessential journey of a human being in many ways. And I think Mugavari Vande, for a film that was ostensibly a very, I mean, from the outside the promotions all appear like some sort of a typical romantic story. It's actually a very deep character study in that sense. And just on the two endings, right, the end, there were two endings to this film. The very first ending, and this is the ending that I watched in the cinemas, it ends with Ajit deciding to go and find a job because Raghuvaran is basically suffering from a long-term illness, and he now has to be the man of the house and run everything. And then he tells, I think Manivanandana, look, I and at that point in the film, he's broken up with Jyotika and stuff like that. And then the Manivan asks him, see, உன் passion-க்காக நீ உன் பொண்ணை விட்ட, இப்போ வந்து you're leaving that passion. He says that, see, yes, I agree, I left the woman of my dreams for my passion, but if a family வந்ததுன்னா I'm leaving my passion, and someday I will probably reach it, and sort of he'll walk away. This, I think, was one of the most realistic endings you could get for a story of this sort. Unfortunately, from what I remember, it wasn't received very well because they thought it was too much of a downer. And then they reshot an additional couple of scenes. I think they didn't even reshoot it. They just stitched some extra scenes from what they had shot already. And then after the scene that I just described, they play the scene where it's kind of implied that a few years later he becomes a music director, and then he's successful and he's happy, and then he is with Jyotika, something like that. But
Oh,
it was so. But to me, I think the original ending is what makes this film so special.
exactly. Yeah, like people need to know every story doesn't have a happy ending. We just have to accept it.
I think
Yeah.
we'll have to also think about the context in which the movie released. I think they may have had some pressure with that, perhaps, because I remember when I watched this movie, it was in a theater, but it was not my first choice. So my family was trying to get into Kahona Pyare Hai a lot, and that movie was running like completely sold out like almost every day in Satyam cinemas. So we were only getting the option to go and watch this movie, which none of us at the point like were sort of interested or anything like that. But then when we stepped into the movie, that was my experience of the movie. So Siege, I think all the points you raised, that's exactly like how I see the movie. But there's also one thing I want to add. Like I think there's that like really nice aside from all the stuff you talked about, like how to one particular person there's this constant struggle between passion and responsibility. I think there's also this nice hopeful version of Ajit's family in the movie who are like extremely supportive of him. So while like the entire world is kind of constantly reminding him that he needs to take up responsibility, I think it's like there's a nice juxtaposition to the idea that his family isn't telling him that, and he
நீ-
naturally sort of realizes that, and he picks it up and he does it. That I
நீங்க
think
சொல்ற டயலாக்
was
சொல்றப்போ
also
எனக்கு என்ன ஞாபகம் வருதுன்னா, இந்த உலகமே உன்னை எதிர்த்தாலும்
Never ever give up.
Ajit
என்னைக்கும்
has been following
விடாமுயற்சி.
this trend. Yeah, I think he started this long back then.
Interestingly, right? I think now that you mentioned Kahona Pyare, right? Pirate. I remember this was 2000. I think 2000 la kuda he did Kandu Konten, or the movie released in 2000 as well. So in 1 year he did two films where he's trying to break into the film industry. In one he officially doesn't break into, which is Mukavari, and the other one he does break into it, and you don't know the outcome of his film because okay, நல்ல ஓப்பனிங் வருது, அது மட்டும் தான் நம்மளுக்கு தெரியும், பட் we don't know if it ended up making a lot of money. But in that he had a more conventional sort of happy ending and a more fairy tale ending in some ways. But then again, Ajith was not the main focus of Kandurvan and Kandode. But it's interesting, he did two very similar sort of struggler arcs in some sense in the same year.
I think a lot of people who are fans of Ajit in the 2000s, right? When I'm talking to them, something a lot of people have kind of reiterated is Ajit is always that kind of character on the screen where he's struggling to reach his dreams. And a lot of people relate with that, and that kind of motivation is something that I feel has pushed a lot of people towards becoming like
Adam,
really
bro,
hardcore
see,
Ajit fans.
it's also right, like the timing in his own personal life kuda. See, in the late 90s he had that accident and he was literally struggling in his own personal life too, right? So the combination of his real avatar and what he was experiencing in real life, right? And he kept on, to his credit, right, he kept on working at it, and he kept on pushing himself. And I think that's why people really like him, for that fact that he literally on the he's literally a phoenix paravai madri from in that sense. He keeps on rising and rising and rising all the time.
Unlike most other heroes at that time, he was not brought in by nepotism. Like he was there alone, probably. I think SPB or someone helped him a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
it
was,
was.
he was Charan's classmate, I think.
But the thing is, a lot of people they don't even have a head start for their career in film industry. So he did have a head start, you know. I mean, sorry, he didn't have a head start. So even the starting step for his career, he had to build it himself.
So let's move to the last two movies. I think I'll pick my movie because I think the last movie deserves to be the last movie to talk. You're talking about. So the movie I picked is Wali. So Wali, of course, by S.J. Surya, was a big phenomenon when it released, and I still very strongly consider it to be Ajith's best performance ever. Just like ஒரே மாதிரி மூஞ்சி வச்சுக்கிட்டு ஒரே மாதிரி ஹேர் ஸ்டைல் வச்சுக்கிட்டு just with his face and facial expressions and just using his muscles, he was able to distinguish between the two characters. Like you can just see it from, like, you are watching it from an outside perspective. அவங்க ரெண்டு பேரும் பக்கத்து பக்கத்துல நின்னாலும், even if they are not doing anything, I can still figure out who is the good guy and who is the bad guy. Like Ajith was able to do that so early into his career, and that established what kind of actor we actually have in our hands. So yeah, definitely Wali is the most impactful Ajith movie for me, at least till now.
I love Wali just because of the fact that it took the common love triangle or a trope and it just twisted it into a complete psychological thriller. I mean, when I started off watching that film, I wasn't even expecting too much. I was like, this is gonna be some on the common love படம் மாதிரி இருக்கும். But it completely took me by surprise, and I don't know. I like I like that concept of this kind of mute, obsessive twin secretly lusting after his brother's wife. I think that was fresh and bold for Tamil cinema at that time. And unlike typical villains, I think Deva is not just evil. The interesting thing about him is he's complex, he's lonely, and he's very terrifyingly real. So that's what I loved. And S.J. Surya, for a debut film, I think his writing and direction was just phenomenal. Like the way he builds suspense up gradually. Like and the chinna clues like that lipstick scene, I think I remember so much. I think it keeps the audience engaged, and the tension in the second half, leading up to uh, that pure climax, I think is just pure cinematic brilliance. அப்பதான்
I, I
when I think of Wally, I imagine like that Martin Scorsese meme, like this is cinema kind of thing.
yeah.
So
I
yeah.
know, I know S.J. Surya is very, very happy where he is right now with his acting and all that, but I definitely miss that director who was able to
Oh,
make good
completely.
movies.
Yeah, so I don't remember when I watched Wali. I mean, I may be younger than you all, but I watched most of his movies in Sun TV, I guess. But Wali was an interesting one because I didn't know anything. I just started seeing it just for Simran, admittedly. And then, as Hari said, I didn't expect anything. I was like, okay, fine. Yeah, it was nice romance, and I loved, small sections of Vivek in the first half. It's like, okay, nice. It's a nice rom com and stuff. And then he'll start to build up the other Ajit, and you'll start to be like, what is this guy? And yeah, he was building up, and then the second half was just a full blown thriller. Special appreciation to Deva, not the villain, but the composer.
I think Deva is not as appreciated as A.R. Rahman or Haris Jairaj, but the 90s and early 2000s, Deva was right on top of his game.
Yeah.
So yeah, Siege, what is your favorite scene in Wali, Siege?
Yeah, see, the scene that really I remember, right, is that one scene where Simran is trying to tell the other Ajit, right, he's making these faces, and then
Yeah.
on the photograph on paper or that he takes it and he tears it up and swallows it, la. And the scene so that scene, man,
Yeah,
Ajit
yeah,
was
yeah.
so good. He was like, dude, I really hate you. Like, you're like giving me the creeps. Um, weirdly enough, I know in the end, at his grave, there's a sort of monologue where he kind of puts some silly justification for his actions. But dude, this guy's an outright villain. I mean, I'm sorry, but I feel no sympathy for him. And To be fair,
Yeah.
that is how this character should be viewed.
Yes.
Right? Just because you can't speak doesn't give you a free pass to literally do whatever he did in that film, right? So, but Ajit nailed it, right? And Ajit nailed it perfectly. uh, Hat tip to Simran as well, because these are the kind of films that really made Simran so popular back then. In the Padam Tollada Manamam Tullum and all that, right? Priyamudan and whatnot. uh, the She was very good in this film, like someone who's like constantly under that pressure from the other guy and nobody's believing her, to the point where her husband thinks that she has some psychiatric issues, takes her to Dr. Mathurabudhan, I think. He takes her to him. I thought she really nailed this role. You could really see that pain and frustration in her. But man, no, honestly, again, right? Wali is, again, timing wise was perfect, because until then, Ajit was still doing these sort of underdog films, or Mari Pavamana character da பண்ணியிருந்தாரு. And then in this film, you go into it expecting that "இதான் பண்ண போறாரு," it's going to be a rom-com of sorts, and the first half really feels like a rom-com with Jyotika and all the songs and everything. And then when they ramp up, right, I think the shades that he brings in, I think this was a precursor to the level of villainy that Ajit can showcase, which of course reached its zenith in the last film that we will speak eventually, and hopefully with Good Bad Ugly. So yeah, those are my memories with Wali. Great
Well,
soundtrack, by the way,
that's the
again.
thing. Like we all know what Ajit is capable of, and we are not getting it for some reason, right?
Yeah, and the frustration,
Yeah.
like he does, no one does gray shades better than him in our sort of industry. There's a certain massiness to it when Ajit does it,
Yeah.
that honestly
And
others
the
will
thing
struggle
is,
to bring out.
people will even now, like Ajit is still in his career. The one thing has done well is he has no pressure of being the good guy. He can still, like, there's no market pressure of him being a good guy is what I feel. Like he can still be a bad guy and he'll still pull his audience into the screens, you know.
I think it's the opposite
So
problem,
yeah.
right? I think the market pressure is for him to be a bad guy and give another mangata, rather than him being a goody two shoes like what we got with Vida Muyachi or whatever.
Pirate, what is your take on Wali?
I've always enjoyed S.J. Surya's films. Unironically, I think he's sort of the person that can take a really simple storyline and then make it such an engaging movie with a screenplay. Like if you take both Kushi and this film, the concept is very simple in both these films, right? Like, but his execution of that concept with all the different scenes, and that's all they are. Like they have really good scenes, one after the other. Either because these characters are interacting, so there's never like any, there's no shying away from that concept, which is what I really like in this movie. You kind of clearly have, he establishes the elder Ajit character and the reverence that everybody has for him, the reputation that he has. It's all set up in that first introduction when the credits roll in the movie. Everyone's talking about like how great, like a brother and a businessman and a boss that Ajit's character is, and that's how you sort of get introduced to him. And there is this sense of like I think like Seed said, there is a sense to try and justify this character towards the end, but I also feel like there's a sense in the middle where both characters meet Priya Simran's character, and unfortunately for the elder brother, it's too late. Like she's already fallen for Shiva, so there isn't anything that he can do. So just the way that he goes about everything, like stopping the marriage, like every one of those elements, I think just keeps amping up throughout the movie, and I feel like the movie does a really good job of making you feel this man's desperation at like
Yeah.
he
Like
definitely wants her and he'll go to any extent for it.
if you have to put one word to it, I would say the tension, right? The tension through the
Yeah.
entire movie keeps escalating and keeps like the viewer, like even people outside the screen, feel what Simran is going through.
Yeah, and to some sense, it's like a really like I don't think we'll get like a like a approximate version of the mythology story of Wali and Sugriva, right? Like this is, I think, to some extent, he's reusing that, and he's portraying it with these two characters, but in a completely like different way and setting. So I thought that's what comes to my mind the most.
So let's move on from Wali to our final movie for the evening, and of course, that is the biggest of them all. And transitioning from the gray shades of Wali, let's move into the gray shades of Mangata. So Jax,
I think it came out after two very bad films. I think. I think it was Asal and Egan, I believe. His fans and everyone uh, wanted a really good film from him and not a blockbuster from him, and then this came out. So it just starts off with setting things up with the gambling, and it in fact it first shows Arjun and what he's capable of, and sets the world of Mangata, and only then you'll see Ajith randomly saving someone and getting suspended, and you'll be like, "What is this?" But then, yeah, you'll get the payoff at the end.
yeah, I think as far as Mangata goes, like I was lucky enough to go to the movie with I got a first day first show when I was in Coimbatore, and I was lucky enough to go with like proper like my friends who were like Ajit fans. And even though at that time I was not an Ajit fan, like when the title credits, sorry, the 50 Ajit 50 coin starts coming up on the screen, like yeah, எனக்கே தெரியாம like my entire body started having goosebumps. Like I was not even an Ajit fan at that time, and I feel that is the grandeur an actor can bring just by familiarity of that you have had of him for the past I think when Mangata came maybe 20 years. So you have grown
Thank
up
you.
watching all his movies, and just all that coming together for one moment on screen just killed it for me. Like Mangata was a sold movie for me, just like into the first 15 minutes when it was on the
Yeah,
screen.
yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. I totally forgot about it. And the title card was just amazing, showing all these small characters clips in the cubes, and then all gathering up to be this one, mass symbol. And then you'll see the Thala 50, and what a 50th film this I know this can't be topped, right?
I think, right, நீங்க ஜாக் சொன்ன மாதிரி where he plays a grey character. My opinion, he's not even a grey character. He's an outright bad guy or a negative character. What is absolutely brilliant about Mangata is that, and credit to Ajit, right? Who would have thought that his 50th film will be a film where he's absolutely irredeemable as a character in that movie, and he sold it so hard that Innivari it is regarded as probably his best film, or not best film maybe, but it's the film that most people associate with. To choose that kind of a character and choose that kind of a subject for his 50th film, I think that was an extremely ballsy move, and I think it worked brilliantly. Nobody could have expected it to work as well as it did. Um, I mean, other Nari actors have done their 50th film, and they've been a mixed bag. But I think probably Ajit's 50th film will probably be the best 50th film for any actor, at least up to this point. Let's see if someone breaks that record, but unlikely to be the case, in my opinion.
And the thing is, it also is a Venkat Prabhu film.
Yeah.
You know, அது வந்து அஜித்தோடைய ஃபிலிமா இருக்கு. ஐ மீன் அஜித்தோட ஃபிலிமா இருக்கும். He'll let him play all his cards.
Pun
Pun
intended.
not intended. But it's still a Venkat Prabhu film where all these the the things with a group of people doing. He gives character to each and every one. And you'll think, okay, இந்த ரெண்டு பழகா பசங்க என்ன பண்ண போறாங்க? Just like Ajit, he'll be like, when planning, Premji and Mahat will be like two crybabies. But in the second half, அவங்க தான் பார்த்தா வந்து டிம்கி கொடுத்து எஸ்கேப் ஆவாங்க. That's an amazing twist, and the whole film is in fact expect the unexpected.
Pirate, நீங்க சொல்லுங்க.
To be honest, it's been a while, and I have just watched Mangata once in the theater. I'll probably be the contrarian in the group. I don't really like Mangata that much. I felt that I mean I maybe this was not coming from as a person who liked Ajit's previous movies and then got to this movie and didn't like it. I think for me, I probably came into it expecting like a really different type of Venkat Prabhu film because I was really a fan of Chennai 28 and Saroja. So there was an element of expectation when I was in the theater to watch this, and
I felt this Mangata was more of a Venkat Prabhu movie than an Ajit movie. I still was totally happy just because it was a proper Venkat Prabhu movie
Yeah,
for me.
yeah. I mean, if it
okay.
were a completely Ajit film, right, he would have been like Jackson Amadri, a true grey character, or at least, worst case scenario, he would have had an arc where he's a bad guy, corrupt guy, but for some reason he reforms because of Trisha or whatever, and then throws these kids under the bus, something like that. The fact that he did not go through that typical sort of redemption arc or was not some undercover cop like Kaki Satte, like the Kamal Kaki Satte or something like that, right? That to me was a clear sign that this is a clear Venkat Prabhu film with enough mass moments for Ajit to score.
வெங்கட் பிரபுடைய எல்லா எலிமெண்ட்ஸுமே அதுல இருக்கும். பட் இட் வில் கேட்டர் டு whatever mass scenes Ajit usually gets,
I don't know if I can be persuaded on that point, but எனக்கு மெயினா I just didn't feel like it was either of their movies. Coming from I think some of the movies I had seen previously, I don't think this movie was for me. Let me put it that way. I feel like out of all of Venkat Prabhu films, like Goat and this, I definitely didn't like, and I definitely felt like both movies were attempting to be Venkat Prabhu films but catering to the star that he was working with.
it's interesting that you say that you're scattering the big stars. பட் இதுல தான் வந்து ரெண்டு பிளகா பசங்க வந்து யூல் சி தெம் ஓவர் பவரிங் அஜித் அட்லீஸ்ட் ஃபார் சம் டைம் அண்ட் ஈக்குவல் ஸ்பேஸ் ஃபார் அர்ஜுன் as well. It was, I feel it was multi-star and they did it so well.
Yeah, I think Siege Bro put it very correctly. I mean, this guy is an out and out bad character, and yeah, I just like how Ajit and he doesn't even try to justify this guy's actions. He just goes all out. This guy's arrogant, selfish. You're like watching this movie. You're like, even ta konjamachu nalla vishayam irkanna. No, he's a complete bad guy. Um, and his attitude is. I think Ajit completely devoured this role, like complete effortless. Like I said, he doesn't try to justify Vinayak Mahadevo's actions.
Exactly.
And I love the fact that he owns the character with flaws and just
Yep.
makes them look cool. Like that was the biggest like thing for me in the movie. And even when he's betraying everyone around him, you find yourself rooting for him. I think
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
is what defines star power.
And the interesting thing, right? He becomes more and more degenerate as the movie progresses.
Exactly.
You think that him being a corrupt cop, a philanderer would be bad enough, but as the movie progresses, you see he's actually he's pretty sadistic in the way he thinks and works and functions, right? And the way he starts taunting Arjun and all these guys, right? Or even Premji when they have that final shootout. It's amazing how bad the character has evolved from the point it started off with when he was already not a good guy to begin with, right? I think that level of degeneracy works so well, and நீங்க சொன்ன மாதிரி Hari, you as a viewer are like you want this guy to win in the end. You don't really care
Yeah,
for if
exactly.
Prithvi wins in this sort of story, right? I think that really worked.
You're
Very
like, this
well.
guy's bad, and I like this guy's actions. He's badass while he's doing bad stuff, and I just
Exactly.
love it.
I remember very interestingly when Tunivu was about to release, right? H. Vinod he said in an interview that and sorry, I'm gonna butcher this. இது வந்து அயோக்கியரின் ஆட்டம் something like this. Everybody is a bad guy in this film. அவங்களோட ஆட்டம் தான் இருக்க போறதுன்னு. In my opinion, Mangata is the real அயோக்கியரின் ஆட்டம். Literally everybody is
True.
corrupt or bad in some ways. Forget about including Premji, including Lakshmi Rai, who literally has like 3 scenes in the entire. I guess the
What
only
about
And
Trisha?
you think that the
Trisha-
redeeming factor for this guy is Trisha, but no,
No, she's not.
You find when you find out that even he's using Trisha as a tool for his like goals, it's just like I don't care
Yeah.
what this guy does. I just want to root for him.
Exactly. And Trisha you could argue that Trisha is probably the only one who does not have any gray shades to her. But then again, you don't know much about her at all. You know she loves
Yeah.
him.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
she
we weren't
goes out.
exposed to her that
We're
much.
not exposed to her too much. So who knows? Maybe she's a bad person as well.
Um,
And the fact that by association, let's face it, she's living off the wealth of her dad, who's not a saint himself. By association, that already makes her a bit questionable in some
yeah,
ways.
already.
So literally nobody's
Um,
redeemable in this movie, I think.
So yeah, that was Mangata for you guys. So yeah, guys. So we shared our thoughts about five Ajit movies. I mean, there are so many that we were not able to talk about. Like especially Billa. I think Billa is one of the big ones that we missed. But yeah, due to time restrictions, we are gonna stop with these five. But let's talk a little bit about Good, Bad, Ugly. I mean, are you guys really excited about that movie? With the trailer and all that. We're gonna be there first day for sure.
Maybe I'll go first. So I'm super hyped for Good Bad Ugly. The main reason is that Ajit seems to be having a lot of fun in that teaser, right? And when was the last time we saw him having so much fun? And I can't wait to watch it. The other thing that will be special for me personally is that I'll be watching it in India for a change, not in Tamil Nadu, but in the south. So I'm kind of hyped for that. And
I
yeah,
got that blessing. I got that blessing to Siege, but I got to watch Vida Muyarchi where there were no hype moments. I was
yeah, okay.
so disappointed.
I strongly empathize with you, bro. Pirate நீங்க சொல்லுங்க.
I'm really excited. I think it looks out and out like a Adik movie, and I know most of the time his movies are don't expect anything and just have a lot of fun. So I think that teaser definitely delivered on that, and I'm also excited to. I think it might be the first time, right? Ajit and SJ Surya in the same film, maybe. So I'm really excited for
Yeah.
what that interaction and chemistry might look like. They didn't tease any of that in the teaser, thankfully. So I'm I hope they maintain that so that when we go to the theaters, it'll be the first time like we actually even see what SJ Surya looks like, because a big
I
part of
know.
Mark Antony was SJ Surya's look. So I'm hoping to have that be like spoiled for me in the theater. But yeah, I'll be definitely there first day for sure.
I just hope Good, Bad, Ugly doesn't do something which Mark Antony does. Like, people after சிறுத்தைங்கிற பாருங்க. சூர்யாவோட படம் இப்போ வந்துச்சு, அது கங்குவா. So Kangua பார்த்துட்டு everybody came out of the theater and said like they were having literal headaches, right? I'm little scared. Adik is capable of doing that, just raising the volume
Yep.
to like 100% and breaking everybody's eardrums.
Yep.
அது மட்டும் பண்ணாம கொஞ்சம் ஒழுங்கா இருந்தா I will be happy about GBU.
Thank you for saying that because மார்க் ஆண்டனி முடிச்சுட்டு வெளியே வரப்போ லைக் இந்த இதுலலாம் வந்துட்டு டைம் எல்லாம் ஸ்டாப் ஆகி இந்த பழைய படத்துல வந்துட்டு அப்படியே காக்கா அப்படியே ஸ்டாப் ஆகும், அப்படியே அழக
24,
போறது ஸ்டாப் ஆகும் இல்லையா, அதெல்லாம் வந்து ஐ மீன் நாட் 24 பட் இந்த பழைய படத்துல வந்து சில ஏதாவது ஒரு ஈவெண்ட்
yeah.
அண்ட் வெளியே வரப்போ it was like all that stopped events just resumed. And it's like, oh, I was at relief finally from all the noise. Theaterல இருக்கிறப்போ தெரியல, but yeah.
I hope Adik tones it down a little bit. Yeah, Hari, are you gonna be there first day for sure?
Yes, completely. Looks like a complete fanboy or something. And like Siege Bro said, Ajit looks like he's just having complete fun right now in the trailer. Teaser la. So I'm just really excited. Pirate Bro and SJ Surya பத்தி சொல்லிட்டு இருந்தாரு. I actually read somewhere that STR might cameo in the movie. So I'm just waiting for that. Thank you, little superstar title card. And
I heard something
yeah.
even worse. I heard that technically one of the characters is based on the unreleased AAA Part 2.
அடப்பாவி.
So Adik symbol tension resolve ஆயிருச்சா? Okay.
I mean, I don't know if the tension resolved. நான் அதான் யோசிச்சுட்டு இருந்தேன். I was like, இவன் கூட சண்டை ஆச்சே, எப்படி வருவான்?
I think it's all sorted
I mean,
now.
but
Yeah, I'm excited.
I think all the movies that we spoke about in this podcast needs a rewatch just so that we have proper fun when we are watching Good, Bad, Ugly.
Yeah, I think
Because
so.
I'm pretty sure there are going to be like callbacks in every scene, and we need to be prepared enough. to actually enjoy
ஆமா.
them to its fullest.
Bro,
I,
and
I think I don't know if GV Prakash is remixing Vati Kuch
I
Tikadara
think
from
he is,
I
right?
think they're
I'm pretty
remixing
sure
it.
I heard a riff like that in
Yeah.
the teaser.
ஆமா.
There was a Mangata riff for sure, and the endless
Yeah.
emotions இருந்தது, but yeah.
Bro, இந்த மேக்கிங் வீடியோல தான் நான் நோட்டீஸ் பண்ணேன். The அஜித் வந்து ஈவன் டஸ் த கேங்ஸ்டர் கணேஷ் கை இந்த ஃபிங்கர் வச்சுண்டு.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
yeah.
Correct, correct.
imagine taking what is the most trolled thing in Ajit's career, probably, at least in the recent past, and using that for a
Turning
mass
it into
moment.
a mass moment. ஆமா.
I
So,
mean, Adik already did that with Vishal, you know.
oh yeah, the
Vishal.
anaconda scene. Yeah, of
ஆமா,
course.
Yeah.
ஆமா, அது
Yeah.
எனக்கு
Oh
வந்து
my
ஆமா.
god, of course.
So he's capable of doing things.
So yeah, so we'll see you with the Good Bad Ugly, guys. So that is our podcast for today. Talking about the filmography of Ajit, leading to Good Bad Ugly, and we are pretty sure we have a new segment of podcast called FDF's Page. So we will be talking about Good Bad Ugly on the first day after we watch the movie. So we'll meet you then.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Peace out, everyone. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 அஜித் வாழ்க.